If the taxes are
Let's look at the next slide.
50,000,
Yeah.
maybe not.
So there's a junior payoff.
Yeah. Again, this is one that we had to start foreclosure to get their attention. I bought the note for under $3,000, July of 2018. We didn't start foreclosure. We sent numerous collection letters. We made phone calls. We had the property door knocked, and they never responded. So we start foreclosure. A month after we start foreclosure, we get a phone call from them. What do we got to do to clear this up?
Mm-hmm.
So we sent them a payoff statement, and they didn't even negotiate with us. They paid the full amount. Normally they would come back and say, well, I can't pay 96,000, but I can give you 50,000. Would you take it? And in this case, they didn't really negotiate. They just paid us off. You know, we get a check in the mail.
That's a little bit of a return there. I mean, anyone who's watching, who wouldn't exchange $2,900 for just over 96,000? Right? That's a decent return. And you said this happened in about 2 years, right? Oh, you bought it in 3 years, you bought it and turned it around. Not a bad ROI on that one, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
What's the next slide look like? Did I do any numbers on it? Yeah. So here's the numbers. 108% ROI.
Yeah. 32 months. Yeah. Okay.
And if you're going to be a note investor, you really have to learn how to use a financial calculator, and you have to learn how to do IRR, internal rate of return. You know, uneven cash flows.
Yeah.
I've taken
real quick, just for people who don't know, IRR is even cash flows. XIRR is uneven cash flows, right? That's the way you figure out. So sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah. My mentor that's taught me so much about calculators is a guy named Gary Johnson and Clyde Wilson. And they have a class called Financial Freedom. And if ever you get a chance, go take it. It's a 3-day class on using a financial calculator to figure out, you know, what you're doing with your money, you know, and it's well worth it. I've taken it 3 times already over the last.
Yeah, I use net present value and XIR all the time. That's how I make offers. That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm pretty good with the calculator. I'm certainly not a beginner, but I could use some brushing up. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Get into that advanced category.
We're flying over to Vegas now, it looks like.
Yeah. Oh, and this is not really a note deal, but it was such a good deal, I had to throw it in there.
Yeah.
And you know, it's notes in real estate, like Garden Moth talks about. You know, it's notes in real estate. And this was a letter that I mailed. You know, in 2015, I created a private note holder list for notes in California, and I mailed out 7,000 letters to people offering to buy the note. And I got 400 or 500 responses, and I think I bought close to 200 notes out of that mailing. And this is one
great return.
Yeah, it was an awesome return.
What year was this?
This was 2015, but the Burbank property that you saw, the one we did earlier.
Yeah.
I mailed that guy a letter in 2015. 5 years later, he called me up and asked me if my offer was still good.
Whoa! You only one letter you sent to him?
I only sent one letter to him.
Wow.
But he called me up and I made him an offer, $70,000 for that note. And he said, nah, you know, I think I'll hang on to it a little bit longer. And he must have had a change of heart, or, you know, his financial conditions changed, but he called me up 5 years later and I ended up buying that note from him for the same offer I made 5 years earlier. And it was actually worth more because the equity had gone way up.
Yeah.
So anyhow, this Vegas deal was a result of a direct mailing. And the seller was a court-appointed, like a conservator or custodian.
Okay.
It was his job to liquidate the property. So he said, I don't have a note. I got your letter and I don't have a note. That note's already gone, but I have a property that I need to bring to auction, and it's subject to a life estate. So you guys, you know what a life estate is?
No, I don't.
Basically, the lady has the right, she's 94 years old. She has the right to live in that property until she passes away or moves out.
Okay.
So it's like a subject to deal. One of the conditions of the deed that I get, so the property actually transferred to me in September 2016 for $40,700. The property was worth about 175 at that time.
Wow.
But I don't have possession. I only have title. So I can't walk in the house and do whatever I want with it.
Weird.
I had to live there. I had to let her live there for per the conditions of the deal. And you don't know. I figured she might live 6 years or 8 years. That was kind of when I did my calculations using my financial calculator. I figured a reduced value. I had plugged in the value at like $150,000, and I thought I might have to hang on to it for 8 years, something like that. So that's how I reached my top bid number.
She didn't pay you at all. You just got discount because she's not going to make payment. She's gonna live in the house you have title to, but she occupies.
She doesn't make any payments. She has to pay the taxes and the upkeep, any maintenance, property taxes, utilities are all her responsibility. And I have the right to go inspect the property whenever I want to. So once or twice a year, if I'm in Vegas, like for Paper Source, I would schedule an appointment with her and I'd go by and take a look at the house.
Wow.
And make sure that, the roof wasn't falling in or the plumbing wasn't backed up and there's, sewage all over the kitchen floor. But she kept it immaculate. The house was really well maintained.
How did this house, did it go to foreclosure auction or?
No, wasn't a foreclosure. The sale was held on the courthouse steps in Utah, and there was only me and 2 other bidders.
But what was the legal action that caused the auction?
It was a court appointed, like a receivership.
Okay.
She lost a lawsuit. So her family, her husband or her son or whoever it was, got sued, and they lost the lawsuit.
Gotcha. But
and so they had to liquidate the assets, but the judge was nice enough to say, okay, I'm not going to put you out on the street. You can live in this house for this length of time, but you're not going to own it anymore.
I never heard of that. That's interesting.
Yeah, that's a new one for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's called a life estate. And Pete Fortunato talks about that. He's had a couple of deals where there's a life estate involved.
Yeah.
And so anyhow, so they notified me in November of 2020 that she's moving out. And so I went over there and helped her move out and got her relocated to Denver. I just packed up the U-Haul and they took off down the street. And then we fixed it up and sold it for $310,000. So if you look at the next slide, it'll show the numbers, I think. So that's the numbers on it.
I can live with that.
Yeah, no kidding.
So I only had, for the first 4 years, I only had 40,000 invested in it.
Uh-huh.
And then later I had to do rehab and closing costs and commissions. So at the end of the 4 years, I ended up having to spend another, $50,000 to get the house ready to sell and sold.
Cindy Coleman mentioned it. She actually ran across one. How did this come across your desk? I mean, I don't think I've ever seen email